The crisp, clean uniform of a nurse, once a symbol of noble purpose and a future meticulously planned, now felt like a shroud. Shi Yue, barely out of her student years, stood on the precipice of a fate she desperately wished to escape. Her slender fingers, usually adept at tending to the sick, trembled uncontrollably, a visible manifestation of the silent scream trapped within her. She was to be a bride today, not to a man chosen by love or even mutual respect, but to an obligation born of desperation and the cruel machinations of a family that saw her as little more than a commodity. "Don't worry, little handsome boy." Her stepmother's voice, sickly sweet and laced with an undercurrent of steel, echoed in her memory from earlier that morning. "My sister is very gentle. Cheng Xinian." The words were meant to reassure her younger brother, to paint a picture of domestic bliss, but for Shi Yue, they were a chilling reminder of the chains that bound her. The man she was forced to marry, Director Wang, was a figure of local prominence, a man whose age far surpassed hers, a man whose intentions were as clear as they were repulsive. She had heard the whispers, the hushed gossip that followed men like him. "I heard that every month. He's looking for 500 women every month. But he doesn't do anything. He just lets them go," the whispers went, chilling Shi Yue to the bone, though she couldn't fathom the true nature of his bizarre ritual. She knew only that it was rumored to be dark, dangerous, and something she wanted no part of. What kind of women? What kind of women does he want? The gossips would wonder, their morbid curiosity, a grotesque echo of her own fear. "How dare you pry into his business? Don't you dare!" someone would retort, silencing the morbid curiosity. Her father, a kind and gentle soul, had passed away 3 years ago, leaving Shi Yue vulnerable to the avarice of her stepmother and stepsister, Shi Zhenzhen. Her heart ached for his memory, for the simpler times when her life was her own. But now, without his protection, she was adrift, her choices dictated by those who held the reins of her meager existence. Director Wang had offered a hefty bride price, a staggering 88,000, a sum her stepmother deemed impossible to refuse. "Do you want this fortune? The bride price is for you," her stepmother had declared, thrusting the concept of a transactional marriage upon Shi Yue. Her stepmother had even stolen her ID card, ensuring Shi Yue could not escape this forced union. "Your mother, she gave me her ID card. Come with me to get a license. You have to go today. You have to go even if you don't." The words were a direct assault on her autonomy, stripping away her last vestiges of control. "You're a lucky man," her stepsister, Shi Zhenjin, had sneered, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of envy and malice. "You're lucky. He's given you a bride price of 88,000. What's not to like?" Zhenjin, always eager for an advantage, always reminding Shi Yue of her perceived inferiority, even insinuated that Director Wang was willing to overlook Shi Yue's past, that she was somehow in the wrong, hinting at a supposed moral failing that made her worthy only of such a marriage. "If it wasn't for your youth, you could have a big son. I wouldn't have paid 88,000 to marry you," Director Wang himself had stated, his words a crude, demeaning assessment of her worth. Meanwhile, in a realm far removed from Shi Yue's struggles, the world of the ultra-wealthy, a different kind of crisis unfolded. Fu Hanchuan, the enigmatic crown prince of the capital, the formidable CEO of the Fuxi Group, was a man cloaked in an aura of power and mystery. He was rarely seen, his public appearances meticulously managed, his personal life a closely guarded secret, but beneath the polished facade, a dark truth gnawed at his very existence. He suffered from a rare and deadly condition, a yang poison that surged through his body, threatening to consume him. His time was running out. "You won't survive New Year's Eve this year," his spiritual advisor, Master Wu Shu, had warned, his voice grave with the weight of an ancient prophecy. "The poison in your body, we can't wait any longer." Fu Hanchuan was a man of intense focus and ruthless efficiency. He had scoured the world, seeking a cure, exploring every avenue, no matter how obscure. His agents had cast a wide net, searching for a very specific individual. Women from all over the world. We've looked everywhere, but we can't find them. One of his assistants had reported, the frustration evident in his voice. You said, a woman with a vermilion sand mole on her collarbone. A woman with a mole on her collarbone. A woman with a mole on her collarbone. Is the only woman in the world. She's the only woman in the world with a full yin body. This woman, with her rare, perfectly balanced, full yin body, was the only one capable of counteracting Fu Hanchuan's all-yang constitution and dissolving the toxic yang poison through intimate contact. You're all yang. You should be with an all-yin body, in order to dissolve. The yang poison in your body. The ritual, Master Wushu had explained, was a delicate dance of energies, to be performed precisely on New Year's Eve, during the ominous blood moon. The stakes were life and death, not just for him, but potentially for the woman who would save him. If you have intercourse with Tokiyuki, you'll damage her chakra. If it's serious, she'll die. The two disparate worlds, Shi Yue's and Fu Hanchuan's, were about to collide in a twist of fate as brutal as it was unexpected. The graduation ceremony, meant to be a joyous culmination of years of hard work, transformed into a public spectacle of humiliation for Shi Yue. As students lined up to receive their diplomas, a large screen flickered to life, displaying a compromising photo. It was Shi Yue, captured in a private moment with Director Wang, an image deliberately manipulated to suggest an illicit affair. This girl on the big screen, isn't she Shi Yue? A voice boomed, confirming her worst fears. Whispers turned into shouts, accusations of impropriety raining down upon her. You got your high rating by sleeping with the head of the department. A classmate sneered, their words amplified by the public address system. Sleeping with such an old man. I'm not afraid of losing my dentures, another jeered, the cruel laughter echoing through the hall. Shi Yue's stepmother and stepsister, hidden amongst the crowd, watched with triumphant smiles, their scheme unfolding exactly as planned. Mr. Wang, with a bride price of 88,000. He came in person to propose marriage. He wants to marry. Our Tokiyuki. Zhen Zhen's voice, full of feigned shock, cut through the din, ensuring everyone knew about the forced marriage. Just as the humiliation threatened to consume Shi Yue, just as the principal, swayed by the public outcry and the fabricated evidence, announced her disqualification from graduation, a commanding presence descended upon the hall. It was Fu Hanchuan, his face a mask of cold fury. He was a shareholder of the university, his power absolute. He arrived, not to condemn Shi Yue, but to find the woman with the vermilion mole, a detail his agents had managed to trace. Shi Yue, desperate, humiliated, and seeing only one impossible escape from Director Wang and her stepfamily's clutches, acted on raw instinct. As Fu Hanchuan stepped onto the stage, a beacon of power in her collapsing world, she met his intense gaze. Her mind, reeling from the public onslaught and the chilling prospect of a life with Director Wang, latched onto a desperate hope. Without a second thought, driven by a primal need for salvation, she cried out, her voice clear and defiant amidst the chaos, "I will marry you." The words hung in the air, a shocking declaration. Fu Hanchuan paused, his eyes, usually cold and unreadable, flickering with a momentary surprise. He had found his target. The search, spanning years and continents, had culminated in this unexpected public declaration. His gaze swept over her collarbone, confirming the small, almost imperceptible vermilion mole. She was the one. The full yin body he desperately needed, the one who could save his life. The world seemed to hold its breath. The bewildered principal stammered, "Mr. Fu is a shareholder of our school. He must be here to expel Shi Yue, that little cutie." But Fu Hanchuan's next words erased all doubt, silencing the jeering crowd and sending a shockwave through the hall. "Shi Yue is my wife, Fu Hanchuan," he declared, his voice resonating with an undeniable authority. His sharp eyes then fixed on the principal. "It's time for a new principal, isn't it?" he stated, a casual dismissal that sealed the fate of the man who had dared to humiliate his destined bride. For Shi Yue, the declaration was both a lifeline and a plunge into the unknown. She had escaped one cage, only to find herself entwined with a man of immense power, a man whose life hung by a thread and whose very cure threatened to extinguish her own. This was not love, nor even affection. It was a pact with destiny, a marriage of desperate convenience, sealed under the mocking gaze of a blood moon and the cruel laughter of a world that seemed determined to break her spirit. But for now, she was safe from Director Wang, and that, in her desperate moment, was enough. The echo of Fu Hanchuan's declaration, "Shi Yue is my wife, Fu Hanchuan," still vibrated in the stunned silence of the graduation hall. For Shi Yue, the words were a sudden, unexpected reprieve, a life raft in a stormy sea of public humiliation and forced marriage. She had escaped Director Wang's clutches, but the relief was fleeting, quickly replaced by the chilling reality of her new predicament. She was now bound to a man she barely knew, a powerful CEO whose very existence was a ticking clock, and whose yang poison could, she would soon learn, spell her own doom. Fu Hanchuan wasted no time on sentiment. His world operated on efficiency and immediate solutions. The 7-day marriage contract was presented to her with a detached formality, a purely transactional agreement. This marriage agreement, it's only for 7 days. After 7 days, we'll get a divorce. He promised her a staggering sum upon its conclusion. "I will also give you $100 million as compensation." For Shi Yue, whose life had been dictated by poverty and the desperate need for money, this was an unimaginable fortune, a path to true freedom from her stepfamily's endless demands. She would finally be able to support herself, to escape the suffocating grip of her stepmother and stepsister. "Anyway, it's only for 7 days as husband and wife. When I get my divorce settlement, I'll be free from my stepmother's family. I'll be free of my stepmother's family." The thought of escaping their control, of being truly independent, was a powerful motivator, overriding the fear of the unknown. With a resigned breath, she picked up the pen. "I'll sign it." The wedding itself was swift, devoid of ceremony beyond legalities, and shrouded in secrecy. It was a union born of desperate necessity for both parties, a pact with destiny made under the ominous shadow of Fu Hanchuan's ticking yang poison and the approaching blood moon of New Year's Eve. "I'll set the date for our wedding on New Year's Eve," Fu Hanchuan had stated. The impending date loomed large, a deadline for both his life and her perilous role in saving it. Shi Yue moved into Fu Hanchuan's sprawling mansion, a world of opulent grandeur that felt utterly alien to her simple existence. The transition was jarring, the silent, watchful staff, a stark contrast to the familiar chaos of her previous life. But the true test came on the 2nd day of the Lunar New Year, the traditional day for family greetings at the Fu family's old estate. It was a deep-seated tradition, a gathering of the powerful and influential Fu clan, and Shi Yue, as the new wife, was expected to attend. Tomorrow is the 2nd day of the Lunar New Year. At that time, all of Bo's family and friends will come to the old house to pay New Year's greetings. From the moment she stepped through the ancestral gates, the air crackled with hostility. Fu Hanchuan's stepmother, a woman with a sharp gaze and an even sharper tongue, greeted her with thinly veiled disdain. Beside her stood Fu Hanchuan's younger brother, who surveyed Shi Yue with a mixture of contempt and amusement. They viewed her as an interloper, a common hick who had somehow gotten into Hanchuan's bed and forced a marriage upon the esteemed Fu family. "Where did you come from?" "Hanchuan is really hungry. He'll eat anything," his stepmother sneered, her words a public humiliation. The rules of the Fu family, as interpreted by his stepmother, were immediately brought to bear upon Shi Yue. Since you're the Fu family's daughter-in-law, she should abide by our rules. The first test was the tea ceremony, a traditional gesture of respect to elders. A new daughter-in-law comes to pay her respects. She should offer a cup of tea to the elders. Shi Yue, nervous but determined, prepared the tea. However, the stepmother, with a cruel twist, ensured the tea was scalding hot. As Shi Yue presented the cup, a tremor in her hand, the hot liquid spilled. "It's hot because it's a sign," the stepmother declared, twisting the accident into an ominous prophecy of the Fu family's downfall. "You little cutie, it's New Year's Eve. Are you trying to curse our Fu family? Our family will be torn apart." "Will be torn apart?" The stepmother then proceeded to verbally abuse Shi Yue, accusing her of deliberately trying to bring bad luck to the family. "You don't know how to behave." The humiliation deepened with a demand for the kowtow ceremony, a traditional gesture of deep respect. But this was no ordinary ritual. If you want to enter the Fu family, you must obey the rules of the Fu family. This mat is 1,000 nails, is our Fu family. It has been passed down from our ancestors. It is designed to test the new wife's, whether she is obedient to our family, to our Fu family. Shi Yue was instructed to kneel on a mat embedded with 1,000 nails, a brutal test designed to inflict pain and break her spirit. "Such a woman is worthy of me." "Expert's young lady," the stepmother announced, expecting Shi Yue to comply. Fu Hanchuan's brother joined in the taunts, encouraging her to kneel or risk disgracing the Fu family. If you don't kneel down, you'll be disgracing Brother Hanchuan." Shi Yue hesitated, her heart pounding against her ribs. The pain of the hot tea still stung her hand, and the sight of the nail-studded mat sent a shiver of dread through her. She was a woman of resilience, but this was beyond anything she had ever imagined. The cold stares of the assembled relatives, the triumphant gleam in her stepmother's eyes, all pressed down on her, urging her to submit. She was a little cutie from the mountains in their eyes, easily broken. Just as despair threatened to consume her, a powerful, commanding voice cut through the tension. "Shi Yue is my wife, Fu Hanchuan." Fu Hanchuan, who had been observing the cruel charade from a distance, stepped forward, his presence instantly silencing the room. His eyes, usually cold and calculating, blazed with a fierce protectiveness. He grabbed the teacup from his stepmother's hand and, with a swift, unexpected movement, forced it towards her lips. "Let her drink her fill," he snarled, turning the tables on her. The boiling tea splashed, and his stepmother cried out in shock and pain. His brother rushed forward. "Big brother, are you crazy? You're doing this for a little girl? You want to hit our mom?" But Fu Hanchuan was undeterred. He turned his attention to the dreaded nail mat, his gaze sweeping over the family members who had delighted in Shi Yue's torment. Then, to the shock of everyone present, he dropped to his knees, not on the mat, but directly onto the hard, cold floor, and bowed deeply. His action was a silent, powerful indictment of their cruelty, a declaration that he would endure their petty torments rather than allow his wife to suffer. 1,000 nail cushions, he muttered, acknowledging the absurdity of their traditions. He had chosen his side, and it was unequivocally with Shi Yue. "Go tear up the family tree. Write a new one. Start with me, Fu Hanchuan. In the family tree, Shi Yue is the sole head of the family." His words were a thunderbolt, a radical defiance of centuries of tradition. He was asserting his dominance, not just over his family, but over the very essence of their ancient lineage, all for the sake of the young woman he had taken as his wife. He was burning down the old rules, declaring his ultimate authority, and placing Shi Yue, a common nurse, at the pinnacle of the Fu family hierarchy. His brother and stepmother were left speechless, their faces drained of color, realizing they had pushed him too far. Fu Hanchuan then stood, extending his hand to Shi Yue, his expression softening as he met her bewildered gaze. "Let's go home," he said, the words a balm to her battered soul. It was a powerful public display of solidarity, a clear message to his family and to the world. Shi Yue was his, and he would protect her, no matter the cost. She had arrived as an accursed bride, forced into a marriage of convenience. But now, she was the chosen wife of the most powerful man in the capital, a position she had never sought, and one that promised both immense protection and unforeseen dangers. Their fragile alliance had survived its first brutal test, but the path ahead remained shrouded in mystery and lurking peril. The grand old mansion of the Fu family, still echoing with the remnants of New Year's celebrations and the shockwaves of Fu Hanchuan's defiant declaration, settled back into a tense, uneasy silence. For Shi Yue, the immediate danger from Director Wang and her cruel stepfamily had passed, replaced by a different kind of uncertainty. She was now, undeniably, Mrs. Fu Hanchuan, but their marriage was a fragile pact, a 7-day contract hinged entirely on a prophecy, and a cure that seemed as perilous as the disease itself. Despite sharing the same opulent roof, Fu Hanchuan maintained a peculiar distance from Shi Yue. Days turned into nights, yet he made no move towards the intimacy that Master Wushu had declared essential for his cure. He was polite, attentive even, in his own reserved way, ensuring her comfort and protection within the mansion. He would discuss business matters with Qin Feng, his loyal assistant, with the usual steely focus, but when it came to Shi Yue, a different kind of tension, almost an avoidance, permeated the air. She noticed he wore a turtleneck now, no longer the crisp suits, as if to hide something. This deliberate lack of physical contact, combined with her earlier overheard conversations, fueled Shi Yue's growing unease. She had braced herself for the intercourse that was supposed to save him, but his continued aloofness baffled her. So Fu Hanchuan married me. He married me because it would save his life. It can save his life, she mused to herself, the practical reality of their union weighing heavily. Why then did he keep his distance? Do you dislike me so much? She wondered, a quiet hurt settling in her heart. The answer, or what Shi Yue perceived as the answer, arrived swiftly in the form of Lin Yingying. Lin Yingying was a vision of elegance and grace, embodying everything Shi Yue was not, poised, sophisticated, and deeply rooted in the capital's elite circles. Lin Yingying claimed a long-standing, almost familial connection to Fu Hanchuan, having loved him since childhood. She had just returned to China, having originally planned to stay abroad until summer, a surprise return motivated by her desire to give Fu Hanchuan a surprise. However, upon hearing of his sudden marriage, her surprise quickly turned to thinly veiled hostility towards Shi Yue. "Hello, Ms. Lin." The servants greeted her with deference, a stark contrast to the initial disdain they had shown Shi Yue. Lin Yingying wasted no time in subtly asserting her perceived right to Fu Hanchuan. She presented herself as the future wife of Master Fu, as proclaimed by his family since childhood. This revelation stung Shi Yue deeply. It explained Fu Hanchuan's emotional distance. He loved another. He was married to Shi Yue out of sheer necessity, a cold calculation to cure his illness, while his heart belonged to Lin Yingying. Is it because of Lin Yingying? That's why he won't touch me? Shi Yue pondered, the pieces falling into place with painful clarity. Shi Yue then overheard a conversation that chilled her to the bone. Master Wuxu and Lin Yingying spoke in hushed, urgent tones about Fu Hanchuan's yang poison. The poison in your body. We can't wait any longer. On New Year's Eve this year, you must marry Shi Yue. You have to make love to Shi Yue, Master Wuxu emphasized, the gravity of the situation apparent. But then, the master revealed the devastating truth that had been hidden from Shi Yue. After you marry Tokiyuki, you'll damage her chakra. If it's serious, she'll die. She will die. The words echoed in Shi Yue's mind, a horrifying revelation. Her life was merely a sacrificial lamb, a means to an end. Fu Hanchuan's survival came at the cost of her own existence. The $100 million was not compensation for a marriage of convenience, but for her untimely demise. Her initial joy at escaping Director Wang, her relief at gaining freedom, crumbled under the weight of this terrifying truth. So Fu Hanchuan married me. He married me because it would save his life. It can save his life, she thought, a bitter irony filling her soul. New Year's Eve. The consummation of the marriage meant her death. The man who was supposed to be her savior was, in fact, orchestrating her demise. Panic, cold, and absolute, seized Shi Yue. She had walked willingly into this trap, blinded by the promise of freedom and the desperate need to escape her previous tormentors. The idea of her dying for a man who didn't even truly desire her, who had another woman in his heart, was unbearable. The 7-day contract, which seemed like a lifeline, was now revealed as a death sentence. Master Fu, are you kidding? We didn't know each other before. We don't even have any feelings for each other. How can we? How can we just get married? She had asked him when signing the contract, the words now imbued with a tragic irony. His response, a cold, pragmatic explanation of the 7-day limit and the monetary compensation, had only reinforced the transactional nature of their union. He had even tried to avoid answering her when she asked about the wedding date being New Year's Eve, the very date of the blood moon. His evasiveness, once interpreted as discretion, now revealed a deeper, more sinister intent. In her desperation, Shi Yue sought help from an unlikely source, Fu Hanchuan's younger brother. She tried to warn him about the danger, about Master Wuxu's plans, about the pill of strength that was supposed to stabilize Fu Hanchuan's qi and blood, but would eventually lead to her death. But the brother, blinded by his own ambition and resentment towards his powerful elder sibling, simply dismissed her as irrelevant. As long as we can cure Brother Hanchuan's disease, Shi Yue must die, he thought, revealing his cruel intentions. He had even taken the pill of strength from Master Wushu, claiming he would persuade Fu Hanchuan to give it to Shi Yue, but his true motive was clearly malicious. Shi Yue found herself trapped in a gilded cage. The marriage to Fu Hanchuan had rid her of Director Wang, but it had thrust her into a new, far more dangerous game. Her life, a mere pawn in the power struggles and ancient curses of the Fu family, seemed destined for a tragic end. The bitter cold of the New Year's Eve night seemed to seep into her bones, mirroring the icy dread in her heart. She was to be sacrificed, a secret hidden beneath the guise of a desperate marriage. However, unbeknownst to Shi Yue, a different truth was unfolding in Fu Hanchuan's heart. His continued avoidance of intimacy was not born of dislike for her, but of a profound moral dilemma. He had sought the full yin body to save himself, but he had never intended for her to die in the process. He had learned from Master Wu Shu that the ritual, if performed completely, would indeed cost Shi Yue her life. Faced with this devastating consequence, Fu Hanchuan was wrestling with his own conscience. The cold, ruthless CEO, who once sought only survival, was slowly, inexplicably, developing a protective instinct for the young woman who had unexpectedly become his wife. He had even gone to Master Wu Zhu in secret, desperate to find an alternative. "I'm not asking you. You have to let her live. Or else," he had pleaded, demanded, even threatened Master Wu Shu for a solution that would save both of them. He had offered everything he possessed. "Are you willing to give up everything you have in exchange for Shi Yue's life, including your entire fortune?" "I'm willing," he declared. Master Wu Shu, initially skeptical that a solution existed, had finally presented him with the pill of strength, claiming it could stabilize Shi Yue's qi and blood after consummation, allowing them both to survive. But the master had warned him, "It will cause great harm to your body. It will cause great harm. It could be crippling, or death." Yet, Fu Hanchuan accepted the risk without hesitation. "It doesn't matter. Anyway, I owe it all to her, he resolved, revealing a surprising depth of self-sacrifice. He had come to believe that saving her life was more important than his own well-being. Lin Yingying, driven by her own ambition to secure her place as the future wife of Master Fu, saw Shi Yue's apparent impending death as an opportunity. She was now in possession of the pill of strength that Master Wuxu had given to Fu Hanchuan's brother, unaware of its true insidious nature, believing it would merely stabilize Shi Yue. Unbeknownst to Fu Hanchuan, his own brother, fueled by jealousy and the desire to remove Shi Yue from his path, was secretly working with Lin Yingying to ensure Shi Yue's demise. As long as we can cure Brother Hanchuan's disease, Shi Yue must die, his brother had coldly stated to Lin Yingying, solidifying their dark alliance. On New Year's Eve, the air thick with tension, Fu Hanchuan prepared for the ritual that would either save him or cost them both dearly. Shi Yue, convinced of her impending death, wrote a final, heartbreaking message on a celestial lantern, a tradition for the new year. Fu Hanchuan, you must live a long life, she etched, a selfless wish for the man she believed was sacrificing her for his own survival. She accepted her fate, her only comfort the thought that her sacrifice might save him, a man she was, despite everything, beginning to secretly love. But as the blood moon began its ascent, casting an ominous red glow over the capital, a twist of fate was about to unravel. A phone call from Lin Yingying to Fu Hanchuan's younger brother about the pill, unknowingly intercepted by Shi Yue, would reveal the true treachery at play. Shi Yue, listening to the full, horrifying details of Lin Yingying's plot and the manipulation of the pill of strength, would finally grasp the depth of the betrayal against her. And as the clock ticked towards midnight, two desperate souls, one facing a deadly poison and another a sinister conspiracy, would soon confront their intertwined destinies. The silence in the grand Fu mansion was no longer merely uncomfortable. It was a living, breathing entity, pressing down on Shi Yue, amplifying her burgeoning anxieties. Days bled into nights, marked only by the shifting shadows in her opulent chambers and the distant, clinical sounds of the household. Fu Hanchuan, her enigmatic contract husband, maintained his peculiar distance, a polite, almost courteous aloofness that was far more unsettling than any outright hostility. He continued to be impeccably attentive in his own way, ensuring her every material need was met. The finest silks, the most exquisite dishes, a retinue of discreet servants who anticipated her wishes before she could even voice them. All were at her disposal. Yet it felt like a gilded cage. Every morning, after a breakfast taken in polite silence or with brief, perfunctory remarks about the weather or the household, Hanchuan would disappear into his study, or, more frequently, leave the mansion altogether. His conversations with Qin Feng, his ever-present assistant, were curt, steeped in business jargon and whispered urgency, often ending with Hanchuan dismissing himself with a curt nod and a look of deep concentration that never quite reached his eyes. What truly gnawed at Shi Yue was the distinct change in his attire. The sharp, tailored suits he had favored before, the crisp white shirts that showcased his formidable presence, were now often replaced by more casual, yet still impeccably styled turtleneck sweaters. It wasn't the fashion choice itself that bothered her, but the deliberate way they concealed his neck, a place where a hidden mark, a scar, or something else entirely might reside. Was it related to the illness Master Wuzhu had spoken of, the mysterious malady that necessitated their bizarre union? Or was it something else, something personal and deeply guarded? One afternoon, Shi Yue found herself wandering aimlessly through the mansion's vast library, a labyrinth of ancient tomes and modern literature. Her fingers traced the spines of leather-bound books, her mind elsewhere. She paused at a section dedicated to ancient myths and folklore, a sudden thought sparking in her mind. Master Wushu had spoken of prophecies, of destiny. Could Han Chuan's illness be something more than a mere medical condition? She picked up a dusty volume on forgotten curses and familial afflictions, the parchment brittle under her touch. As she flipped through the yellowed pages, a faint sound from the hallway drew her attention. It was the low murmur of voices, Han Chuan's deep baritone intertwined with Qin Feng's more deferential tone. They were in the main foyer, preparing to leave. The usual precautions, Qin Feng. We cannot afford any slip-ups, especially with the new developments. Han Chuan's voice was tight, strained. Understood, Mr. Fu. The security detail has been doubled, and the arrangements for the treatment have been made for tomorrow, early morning. Qin Feng's voice was barely a whisper, yet the word treatment resonated with chilling clarity in the silent library. Shi Yue instinctively pulled back, pressing herself against a towering bookshelf, her heart hammering against her ribs. Treatment? For what? And why the secrecy? Her fingers tightened around the book, its forgotten tales suddenly feeling less distant, more relevant. Just then, a light, almost imperceptible sound of a high-pitched whimper echoed from the far end of the foyer, quickly stifled. Shi Yue froze. It sounded like a child. Her breath caught in her throat. Fu Hanchuan did not have children, as far as she knew. His family background, though shrouded in mystery, had never hinted at an heir. Was it a visitor? Or could there be something else hidden within the walls of this grand, enigmatic mansion? Han Chuan's voice grew sharper. Ensure she is comfortable, Qin Feng. No disturbances. The whimper wasn't repeated. Moments later, the heavy oak doors of the mansion creaked open, and then shut with a definitive thud, signifying their departure. Shi Yue waited, motionless, until the rumble of a retreating car engine faded into the distance. Only then did she emerge from her hiding place, the book on curses clutched in her hand. Her gaze fell on the polished marble floor near the entrance. A small, intricately carved wooden bird, clearly a child's toy, lay discarded beside a potted fern. It was painted in vibrant blues and greens, colors too bright, too innocent for the austere grandeur of the mansion. Shi Yue knelt, picking it up. It felt warm, as if it had just been held. A chill snaked down her spine. The whimper, the word treatment, the hidden toy. Was Fu Hanchuan hiding a child? And if so, why? The thought was jarring, yet it connected with the fragments of information she had pieced together. The urgency of their marriage, the odd prophecy, Hanchuan's distant demeanor, and now, a child's presence, kept secret. Her initial fear of Fu Hanchuan, the man who had bought her freedom, was slowly transforming into a complex mix of apprehension, curiosity, and a strange, nascent empathy. What kind of secret was so profound that it necessitated such an elaborate charade? And what role was she, a simple pawn, truly meant to play in this high-stakes game? Shi Yue knew then that she couldn't remain a passive participant. The desire for answers, for truth, now burned brighter than her instinct for self-preservation. She would find out what secrets the Fu family held, and what lay beneath the impassive facade of Fu Hanchuan. Her investigation had just begun. The wooden bird toy, clutched in Shi Yue's hand, felt like a miniature key, unlocking a new chamber of questions within her mind. A child. A secret child. The thought was both unsettling and strangely poignant. Who was this child, and why was her existence shrouded in such intense secrecy within the austere walls of the Fu mansion? The previous night's whispers of treatment and Master Wushu's prophecy of a curse suddenly twisted into a far more complex tapestry. Driven by a nascent determination that surprised even herself, Shi Yue decided to act. Her first instinct was to approach the household staff. They were discreet, almost invisible, but their eyes saw everything. She began subtly, observing their routines, their interactions, looking for any crack in their professional facade. One afternoon, while the head housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, was meticulously arranging flowers in the drawing room, Shi Yue approached her. Mrs. Chen was a woman of formidable posture and an even more formidable silence, her face a mask of polite indifference. "Mrs. Chen," Shi Yue began, her voice calm, "these orchids are exquisite. Do you manage all the floral arrangements yourself?" "Indeed, Mrs. Fu," Mrs. Chen replied, her voice soft but devoid of warmth. "It is part of my duties." "I was wondering," Shi Yue continued, attempting a casual tone. "I heard a faint sound yesterday, a child's cry, perhaps. Is there a young visitor currently staying at the mansion?" Mrs. Chen's hands, which had been deftly adjusting a stem, paused for a fraction of a second. Her gaze, though still respectful, held a flicker of something unreadable. Surprise, perhaps, or a warning. "I am not aware of any such visitor, Mrs. Fu. This mansion is quite large. Sounds can echo and play tricks on one's ears." Her tone was dismissive, almost too quick. Shi Yue smiled faintly. "Of course. My apologies. I must have imagined it." She knew she hadn't. The denial, swift and absolute, only confirmed her suspicions. The staff was loyal, perhaps even coerced into silence. Direct questions would yield nothing. Her next avenue was the library, a treasure trove of forgotten knowledge. She spent hours, sometimes days, poring over ancient texts on ailments, folklore, and local legends related to the Fu family's ancestral lands. It was tedious work, much of it yielding only archaic medical terms or fantastical myths, but Shi Yue was relentless. Her academic training from her art history background, though vastly different, had instilled in her a meticulous approach to research and a sharp eye for patterns. She discovered fleeting references to a shadow sickness that plagued the Fu lineage generations ago, a debilitating condition that seemed to affect only the direct male line, manifesting as an inexplicable wasting away, often accompanied by a strange, almost ethereal pallor. The only recorded cure in these vague texts involved a bond with a pure, untainted spirit from outside the clan, specifically one born under an auspicious star. It was a bizarre, almost unbelievable concept, yet it echoed Master Wuxu's prophecy with chilling accuracy. Could this be Fu Hanchuan's illness? And if so, what about the child? Was she also afflicted? As Shi Yue delved deeper, the mansion itself seemed to shift, its grandeur now feeling less like a sanctuary and more like a fortress hiding dark secrets. She noticed certain doors were always locked, certain wings of the house inexplicably sealed off. Her walks through the gardens often led her past high walls, beyond which she sometimes heard faint, distant sounds, a soft cough, a fleeting melody from a music box. Meanwhile, external pressures began to mount, confirming Shi Yue's position was anything but secure. The media, initially buzzing with a scandalous contract marriage, had largely died down, manipulated by Fu Hanchuan's formidable PR machine. However, a new, more insidious threat began to emerge from the social circles of City A. It started with veiled snubs at charity galas she was obliged to attend with Hanchuan, then escalated to whispers. The commoner bride, the opportunistic gold digger, a mere temporary arrangement. The cruelest barbs came from none other than Miss Wen Li, the estranged fiancée of Fu Hanchuan. Wen Li was a woman of exquisite beauty and cold, calculating ambition. She was the heiress of the powerful Wen Corporation, a long-standing business rival of the Fu family, yet her engagement to Hanchuan had been seen as a strategic alliance. Their broken engagement, supposedly due to Hanchuan's inexplicable change of heart, had left her humiliated and vengeful. One evening, at a high-profile art exhibition hosted by the Fu family, when Li approached Shi Yue, her smile a thin, venomous line. "Mrs. Fu, isn't it? Though I doubt the title will stick for long." Her voice, though sweet, was laced with poison. Han Xuan has a habit of collecting pretty things. He discards them when they no longer serve his purpose. Shi Yue met her gaze, refusing to flinch. And you, Miss Wen, seem to have a habit of clinging to things that were never truly yours. Wen Li's eyes narrowed, her facade momentarily cracking. Don't mistake a temporary whim for destiny, little bird. Han Xuan's true allegiances lie elsewhere. He has prior commitments. And the Fu family has secrets far darker than you can imagine, secrets that chew up outsiders and spit them out. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a chilling whisper. Some secrets involve a certain little shadow, hidden away from prying eyes. Do you really think you can compete with that? The veiled threat, the specific mention of a certain little shadow, sent a shiver down Shi Yue's spine. Wen Li knew. She knew about the child. This was no mere social snob. This was a formidable opponent with dangerous information, and perhaps dangerous motives. As the days of the contract drew to a close, the tension in the mansion became palpable. Fu Hanchuan grew even more withdrawn, his eyes often distant, filled with a deep-seated weariness. Shi Yue, armed with her discoveries from the library and Wen Li's ominous warning, felt a growing sense of urgency. The 7 days Master Wuxu spoke of were almost up. The Pact was nearing its end. But the secrets of the Fu family and the truth behind Fu Hanchuan's desperate act were only just beginning to unravel. She had to find out more, and soon. The child, the curse, and the man who was both her captor and, perhaps, a victim himself. The chill of Wen Li's words lingered, a bitter aftertaste in Shi Yue's mind. A certain little shadow. The phrase resonated with the quiet whimper she'd heard, the discarded wooden bird, and the veiled warnings from Mrs. Chen. It fueled her resolve, pushing her beyond the boundaries of passive acceptance into active pursuit of the truth. The 7-day contract, Master Wushu's bizarre deadline, loomed large, a ticking clock above her head. The marriage Shi Yue and Fu Hanchuan maintained for the outside world was a meticulously choreographed dance. At social events, Hanchuan was the picture of a devoted, if somewhat reserved, husband. His hand would rest lightly on her back. His eyes would meet hers with a flicker of something unreadable, a practiced warmth that never quite reached the depths of his being. Shi Yue, in turn, played the role of the elegant, composed wife, her smiles polite, her conversations charmingly shallow. Yet, beneath the facade of a perfect couple, their personal lives remained starkly separate, a desolate expanse of unspoken words and untouched intimacy. Shi Yue felt like an actress in a play, her stage, the lavish mansion, her audience, the insatiably curious high society of City A. The loneliness, despite the surrounding opulence, was a constant, gnawing companion. Fu Hanchuan's disappearances became more frequent, more prolonged. He would leave before dawn, often returning late at night, his face drawn, his eyes weary, haunted by something Shi Yue couldn't decipher. He offered no explanations, and Shi Yue no longer asked. She knew any direct inquiry would be met with the same polite stonewalling. This veiled secrecy only solidified her decision. She had to follow him. Her opportunity came on a cool Tuesday morning. Han Chuan, after a particularly terse conversation with Qin Feng, announced he would be attending to a sensitive acquisition out of the city. He expected to be back by late evening. Shi Yue watched from her bedroom window as his black sedan, a sleek, armored beast, pulled away from the mansion, Qin Feng at the wheel. Shi Yue moved swiftly. She called a discreet taxi, making sure it waited a street away from the mansion's main gate. She dressed in simple, nondescript clothes, a dark hooded jacket, jeans, and a baseball cap, a stark contrast to the designer gowns she usually wore. It was a disguise she felt comfortable in, reminiscent of her student days when she would explore the forgotten alleys and hidden art galleries of the city. The taxi driver, a grizzled man named Mr. Lim, eyed her curiously but remained silent. Shi Yue gave him simple instructions. Follow that black sedan. Keep a safe distance. Mr. Lim merely grunted, his eyes fixed on the target vehicle. The chase was long and winding, leading them out of the glittering city center, past bustling industrial zones, and finally onto a less traveled highway that snaked through the rugged, less developed outskirts. The landscape changed from towering skyscrapers to rolling hills dotted with sparse, ancient trees. Shi Yue's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. She was crossing a line, delving into a world she knew nothing about, a world Fu Hanchuan had painstakingly kept hidden. After nearly 2 hours, Hanchuan's sedan turned off the main road onto a narrow, unpaved path, barely visible beneath overgrown foliage. "Stop here, Mr. Lim," Shi Yue instructed, her voice barely a whisper. "I'll walk the rest of the way." She paid him generously, silencing his questions with a firm look. As the taxi turned around and disappeared back down the path, Shi Yue found herself alone, surrounded by the chirping of cicadas and the rustling of leaves. Ahead, the path led into a thick copse of trees. Carefully, silently, Shi Yue followed the tire tracks, her senses heightened. The air grew cooler, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and something else. Something metallic, almost sterile. The path ended abruptly at a clearing. What Shi Yue saw made her gasp, the sound swallowed by the rustling leaves. It wasn't a remote business facility or a private retreat. Nestled deep within the secluded woods, almost swallowed by the overgrowth, stood an old Gothic-style mansion. But this was no ordinary residence. Its windows were dark, boarded up in places, and a section of its facade appeared to be a newer, starkly modern addition, a glass and steel structure that seemed utterly out of place, like a futuristic module grafted onto an ancient ruin. A faint, almost imperceptible hum emanated from it. Fu Hanchuan's sedan was parked discreetly behind a cluster of dense bushes. As Shi Yue crept closer, she saw him emerge from the car, not in his usual attire, but in a plain, dark-colored tunic and trousers. Qinfeng was beside him, carrying a small, silver medical case. They walked towards a side entrance, barely visible against the mansion's decaying stone walls. Shi Yue found a vantage point behind a massive oak tree, its ancient branches providing ample cover. Through a gap in the foliage, she saw Hanchuan and Qinfeng disappear inside the newer, sterile-looking section of the building. Moments later, a single soft light illuminated a window in that section, revealing a glimpse of the interior. It looked less like a home and more like a laboratory or a specialized clinic. There were intricate machines Shi Yue couldn't identify, monitors displaying fluctuating lines, and sterile white surfaces. Then, through the glass, she saw them. A team of medical professionals dressed in scrubs moved silently around a large, transparent chamber. And inside that chamber, connected to an array of tubes and wires, lay a small, fragile figure. It was a child, a little girl, no older than 5 or 6, with wispy dark hair and a complexion as pale as alabaster. Her tiny hand was wrapped around a worn wooden bird toy, identical to the one Shi Yue had found in the Fu mansion. Shi Yue's breath hitched. This was the little shadow. This was the secret. Fu Hanchuan stood by the chamber, his face etched with an agony Shi Yue had never seen. He reached out a gloved hand, pressing it against the cold glass, his forehead resting against it. His shoulders shook with a silent, profound grief. It was the face of a man burdened by an unbearable sorrow, a pain that transcended his usual stoic demeanor. Qinfeng spoke to him softly, pointing at one of the monitors. Hanchuan nodded, his movements slow, heavy. He then leaned down, whispering something to the child through a small intercom, his voice thick with emotion. Shi Yue watched, transfixed. The pieces were finally clicking into place, horrifying in their clarity. the shadow sickness from the ancient texts, the prophecy about a pure spirit, the desperate marriage. This child, this fragile, hidden life, was the core of everything. Was she the one suffering from the family curse? And was Shi Yue, the sacred bride, somehow the key to her salvation? A wave of conflicting emotions washed over her. Anger at being manipulated into this bizarre pact. Fear for the unknown dangers that lay ahead. But also a surprising surge of pity for Fu Hanchuan, who carried such an immense burden in secret, and a profound, heartbreaking empathy for the innocent child whose life hung in the balance. The 7-day contract was almost up, but Shi Yue knew, with chilling certainty, that her role in the twisted destiny of the Fu family was far from over. She had stumbled upon a truth that bound her to them irrevocably, a truth that would force her to confront not only the secrets of this powerful dynasty, but also the depths of her own courage. The return to the Fu mansion felt different. The opulence, once oppressive, now seemed to mock Shi Yue with its cold grandeur. The secret she carried from the secluded forest, the fragile, hidden child, the agonizing sorrow etched on Fu Hanchuan's face weighed heavily on her heart, transforming her anger into a complex tapestry of sorrow and fierce determination. The wooden bird, still clutched in her hand, was no longer just a toy. It was a tangible link to the profound deception she had endured. That evening, the tension between Shi Yue and Fu Hanchuan was a palpable entity in the silent dining room. The usual polite facade had crumbled, replaced by a charged atmosphere, thick with unspoken accusations and concealed truths. Shi Yue waited, watching him across the vast mahogany table, his face impassive as ever, yet with a subtle rigidity around his jaw that betrayed his internal turmoil. When the last of the servants had discreetly withdrawn, leaving them in the hushed intimacy of the grand room, Shi Yue finally broke the silence. Her voice was steady, though her hands trembled slightly beneath the table. "I know," she stated, her gaze unwavering as it met his. Fu Hanchuan's fork, poised halfway to his mouth, froze. His eyes, usually pools of calculated reserve, widened imperceptibly, a flicker of raw surprise and then resignation passing through them. He slowly placed the fork down, his gaze dropping to his plate. "Know what, Mrs. Fu?" His voice was low, carefully controlled. "I know about the child," Shi Yue continued, her voice gaining strength, each word a hammer blow against the carefully constructed wall between them. "The little girl, the one you keep hidden, the one who needs treatment." She pushed the wooden bird across the polished table. It slid silently, coming to rest near his hand, a stark, colorful anomaly against the formal setting. "I saw her. I saw you." Hanchuan's head snapped up, his eyes burning with a mixture of shock and an almost animalistic fear. "You followed me," he stated, not as a question, but a cold, hard fact. "What else was I to do?" Shi Yue retorted, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "Live in this gilded cage, ignorant pawn in your twisted game? You bought me, Mr. Fu. You tied my fate to yours with a 7-day contract and a cryptic prophecy, and you offered no explanations. You gave me no choice but to seek the truth myself." He rose from his seat, walking to the window, his back to her. His silence was deafening, drawing out the moment, amplifying the weight of his secret. When he finally spoke, his voice was a raw whisper, devoid of its usual power. "Her name is Luna," he began, his voice breaking. "She is my daughter, and she is dying." The words hung in the air, sharp and devastating. Shi Yue felt a sharp pain in her chest, a mixture of validation and profound sadness. "Daughter?" she repeated, her voice barely audible. Why was she hidden? Why the secrecy? Hanchuan turned, his face haggard, stripped of its carefully constructed facade. "Because of the curse, the shadow sickness of the Fu lineage. It targets the direct female line, manifesting as an accelerated wasting away, a slow fading of life force. It begins in childhood, and traditionally, it has no cure. Luna is the first female born into the direct Fu line in 3 generations. We thought the curse had finally died out. His voice was heavy with self-reproach. He explained further, his words tumbling out, a torrent of long-held pain and desperation. Master Wuxu, he was our last hope. He spoke of a pure spirit, a sacred bride born under a specific alignment, one who could anchor Luna's fading life force. Your birth details, your unique spiritual energy, they matched his prophecy precisely. The 7 days, it's the crucial period for the initial stabilization, a fragile window, a gamble. Shi Yue listened, her mind reeling. So she wasn't just a pawn, she was a specific, living key. A sacrifice, perhaps. The anger flared, hot and sharp. You manipulated me. You used my vulnerability, my desperation to force me into this. You didn't even tell me the truth about the child. I couldn't, Han Xuan pleaded, his eyes filled with a desperate intensity. The Fu family is under constant scrutiny. My enemies, they would exploit any weakness. The curse itself is a closely guarded secret, a shame. And if word got out about Luna, about the sacred bride, her life would be in even greater peril. My parents, my family, they would never have allowed this marriage if they knew the true depth of the curse. This was my last desperate act to save my daughter. His confession, raw and unfiltered, revealed a man stripped bare of his corporate armor, a father consumed by a singular, overwhelming love. Shi Yue saw not just the ruthless CEO, but the aching humanity beneath. Yet, the bitter taste of deception remained. Before Shi Yue could fully process this devastating revelation, a new, more immediate threat emerged, a cold reminder of the world's ruthless nature. News channels began to buzz with controlled leaks. Tabloids ran sensational headlines. Fu Corporation facing insolvency. CEO Fu Hanxuan's scandalous business dealings uncovered. When corporation moves to acquire Fu family assets. When Li had struck, her veiled threats were not idle. She was systematically dismantling Fu Hanxuan's empire, aiming to corner him into a position where he would lose everything, his company, his power, and potentially his ability to protect Luna. She was leveraging old, dormant scandals and fabricating new ones, using her vast network and the media to create a storm of distrust around the Fu name. Her ultimate goal was to force Han Xuan to abandon Shi Yue and return to her, or, failing that, to destroy him entirely. A direct, chilling message arrived at the mansion, addressed to Shi Yue. It was an anonymous note, but the elegant script and the specific details within left no doubt of its sender. Wen Li, Little Bird, it read. Your freedom may have been bought, but your safety is not guaranteed. He cannot protect you, not when his own world is crumbling. Choose wisely. Leave him, and you might survive. Stay, and you will fall with him and his cursed legacy. The note included a blurry, zoomed-in photo of the hidden mansion, a shadowy glimpse of the very window where Shi Yue had seen Luna. Wen Li didn't just know, she had eyes everywhere. The stakes had just been raised to an unimaginable level. Shi Yue was no longer just dealing with a personal betrayal. She was caught in a brutal power struggle, intertwined with an ancient curse and a child's fading life. Looking at Fu Hanxuan, his strong shoulders now slumped with the weight of both his daughter's illness and his collapsing empire, Shi Yue felt a profound shift within her. The anger at his deception, while still present, was now overshadowed by a burgeoning sense of purpose. She had been used, yes, but perhaps, in this grand, terrifying game of destiny, she also held the power to change the outcome. The contract had brought her here. The truth had revealed the full horror of their predicament. Now, a choice lay before her. Abandon him and seek her own tenuous freedom, or stay and fight for a life and a love she was only just beginning to understand. The path ahead was dangerous, but for the first time, Shi Yue felt truly connected to the destiny that had thrown her into the heart of the Fu family's darkest secrets. The confession had torn through the fragile truce between Shi Yue and Fu Hanchuan, leaving raw wounds exposed. The anger, though tempered by the revelation of Luna's plight and Hanchuan's agonizing burden, still simmered. Shi Yue stood at a precipice, the weight of her choices pressing down on her. The bitter truth about Luna and the shadow sickness had shattered her illusions, yet Hanchuan's raw desperation had also carved a sliver of empathy in her heart. "So, that's it?" Shi Yue finally broke the silence, her voice trembling with a mixture of pain and disbelief. "I'm merely a tool, a prop in your elaborate scheme to save your daughter. My life, my choices, none of it matters beyond serving your prophecy?" Hanchuan, his face etched with torment, took a step towards her, his hand reaching out tentatively, then falling back. "Shi Yue, please. It was never my intention to cause you pain. My world was collapsing. Luna, she is everything to me. Master Wushu's prophecy was the only flicker of hope. I was desperate. I am desperate." His voice was hoarse, thick with a self-loathing that was uncharacteristic of the formidable CEO. "I know I have wronged you. I know I have forced you into an impossible situation. But I swear I never meant for you to suffer." His words, though sincere, grated on her. Suffering? I was kidnapped, forced into a contract, thrown into a family of strangers, and told my destiny was tied to a curse I knew nothing about. My old life, my freedom, all gone. And for what? To be a cure for a child I didn't even know existed. The unfairness of it all welled up inside her, hot tears pricking at her eyes. "You have every right to be angry," Hanchuan conceded, his head bowed. "Every right to leave. The 7 days are almost over. The initial stabilization, according to Master Wuxu, is complete. You are free to go." His words, meant to offer freedom, felt like a renewed stab. Free to go? After everything? After seeing Luna? After understanding the sheer desperation that drove him? The thought of simply walking away, leaving the fragile child to her fate, leaving Hanchuan to battle his demons alone, felt wrong. It was a moral dilemma that tore at her core. Her instinct for self-preservation screamed at her to escape this labyrinth of secrets and danger. But her burgeoning compassion, a side of her she hadn't known existed until now, urged her to consider the innocent life she had glimpsed. As if on cue, the world outside reinforced the impossible choice. The news reports escalated, no longer just whispers but roaring headlines. Fu Corporation's stock plummeted. Major investors pulled out. Wenli's calculated assault was working, systematically dismantling Hanchuan's empire piece by piece. The mansion, once a symbol of impenetrable power, now felt like a sinking ship. Suddenly, a voice, calm and ancient, cut through the turbulent air of the mansion. The threads of destiny, once woven, cannot be easily unraveled. Shi Yue and Hanchuan turned to see Master Wuxu standing at the threshold of the dining room, his eyes, like deep pools, observing them with an unnerving intensity. He seemed to have materialized, out of thin air, his flowing robes accentuating his ethereal presence. "The initial bonding is fragile, like a sapling in a storm," Master Wuxu continued, his voice resonating with an otherworldly wisdom. "The shadow sickness feeds on despair, on isolation. The pure spirit does not merely act as a conduit. It must become an anchor, a beacon of hope and connection for the afflicted. To truly break the curse, the bond must be nurtured, strengthened by true understanding and shared purpose." He looked directly at Shi Yue. "Child, your connection to Luna is not merely spiritual. There is a bloodline resonance, though faint, that connects you to the ancient protectors of the Fu lineage, those who once sealed this curse away. Your arrival is not a random twist of fate. It is the reawakening of a long-dormant link. To abandon this, is to abandon a piece of your own forgotten heritage and to condemn Luna to her fate. Shi Yue gasped. A bloodline resonance? Her, connected to the Fu lineage? It was preposterous. Yet the master's words held an undeniable power, a ring of truth that settled deep within her bones. It explained the prophecy's specificity, her precise birth details. Master Wushu then turned his gaze to Han Xuan, his expression stern. "And you, young Fu, you sought a solution, but you neglected the spirit of the bond. True healing requires not just the fulfillment of a ritual, but the cultivation of trust, of honesty. The curse, it feeds on secrets and mistrust. To break it, you must truly open your heart, not just for Luna, but for the one destiny has chosen to stand by her side." He then revealed another, chilling detail. The curse, when it senses a threat to its dominion, becomes active. The attacks on your business, the escalation of your enemies, they are not merely external. The curse stirs, pushing against the light, attempting to sever the bond that threatens its existence. Wen Li is merely a pawn, unknowingly being manipulated by the dark energies of the curse itself. A cold dread settled over Shi Yue. The curse was not just a medical condition. It was an active, malevolent force. And Wen Li was a symptom, not the cause, of this escalation. Han Xuan's face tightened. "Then what must we do?" "You must unite, not merely as a contract, but as true allies, bound by a common purpose," Master Wushu declared. "You must seek the heart of the dragon, the ancient seal that once held the curse at bay. Its power has weakened over centuries, but it holds the true key to Luna's salvation and to severing the curse's hold on your family. It is hidden, guarded by forgotten trials and the lingering energies of the curse itself, and time is running out. The full moon will amplify the curse's power. You have until the next lunar cycle to find it." With that, Master Wuxu turned, his form seeming to dissipate rather than walk away, leaving Shi Yue and Han Xuan alone once more, the air thick with the weight of his pronouncements. The choice, once agonizingly difficult, now became terrifyingly clear. Shi Yue looked at Han Xuan. He was still a man who had deceived her, but he was also a man consumed by love for his child, a man now openly vulnerable, facing the destruction of his world. And Shi Yue, was inextricably linked to this fate, not just by circumstance, but by an ancient, rediscovered bloodline. Her anger, her feelings of being used, were still there, but they were now overshadowed by a profound sense of responsibility. She saw Luna's fragile face in her mind, the innocent child clinging to the wooden bird. She saw Han Xuan's silent anguish, and she understood that simply walking away was no longer an option, not when an innocent life hung in the balance, and certainly not when her own ancestry called to her. She would stay, not as a coerced bride, but as an active participant, not as a victim, but as an ally. She would stay to fight this ancient curse, to save Luna, and perhaps, in doing so, to uncover a strength within herself she never knew existed. "Tell me everything, Fu Hanchuan," Shi Yue said, her voice clear and firm, all traces of hesitation gone. "Every detail about this curse, about your family's history, about this heart of the dragon. We will find it, together." Fu Hanchuan looked at her, his eyes widening with a flicker of disbelief, then a profound relief, and finally, a deep, dawning respect. For the first time since their bizarre union, he saw her not as a means to an end, but as a true partner. The pact of destiny had truly begun. Shi Yue's words, "We will find it," together resonated in the vast dining room, a beacon of determination cutting through the lingering shadows of doubt and fear. For Fu Hanchuan, it was a moment of profound relief, a glimmer of hope in the suffocating darkness that had enveloped him. He had faced down corporate raiders, financial collapses, and personal tragedies with an unyielding iron will, but the sheer burden of Luna's illness and the ancient curse had driven him to the brink of despair. Now standing before him was the woman he had unwillingly bound to his fate, choosing not to flee, but to fight. "Thank you, Shi Yue," he said, his voice husky with genuine emotion. It was the first time he had spoken her name without the formal Mrs. Fu, and the intimacy of it, despite the circumstances, made her heart flutter. I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything," she replied, a hint of her old fire returning. "Just tell me everything, from the beginning. Every detail about this curse, about your family's history, about this heart of the dragon." And so, for the first time, Fu Hanchuan truly opened up. He led her to a hidden chamber beneath the mansion's oldest wing, a place previously sealed off, known only to the direct line of the Fu patriarchs. It was not opulent, but austere, lined with ancient scrolls, dusty tomes, and strange arcane artifacts. Here, in the dim light cast by an old flickering gas lamp, he unveiled the true history of the Fu family. He spoke of the shadow sickness, a curse laid upon a distant ancestress centuries ago, a woman who had betrayed a powerful arcane cult, leading to their destruction. In retaliation, the cult's last surviving member had cast a malevolent spell, condemning the direct female line of the Fu family to a slow, debilitating demise. Generations had tried to break it, sacrificing fortunes and lives, but to no avail. The pure spirit prophecy was a desperate, last-ditch effort, documented by an ancient family shaman, hinting at a rare celestial alignment that would bring forth a soul capable of anchoring the curse's destructive force. My grandmother, my great-aunts, they all succumbed. Hanchuan's voice was heavy with sorrow. "We thought Luna was safe, but the curse, it's been dormant, weakening perhaps, but never truly gone. When Luna began showing symptoms a year ago, doctors were baffled. It was Master Wushu who recognized the signs, linking it to the ancient texts. He told me about the Heart of the Dragon, an artifact said to be the source of the family's ancestral power, hidden by the very same ancestors who sealed the curse, meant to be activated only when the curse threatened to consume the line entirely." Shi Yue listened, her mind racing, connecting the pieces. Her bloodline resonance, her unexpected connection to the ancient protectors. It was overwhelming, but a strange sense of purpose began to solidify within her. This wasn't just Hanchuan's battle. It was hers too, woven into the very fabric of her being. Their alliance began in earnest. They spent days immersed in the hidden chamber, poring over fragmented texts, deciphering ancient scripts, and cross-referencing family trees. Shi Yue's sharp intellect, honed by years of art historical research, proved invaluable. She noticed patterns and symbols that Hanchuan, focused on the curse's immediate threat, had overlooked. She uncovered a recurring motif, a stylized dragon, entwined with a blossoming lotus, always accompanied by a series of celestial coordinates and a cryptic poem. One particular scroll, written in a fading, almost indecipherable script, detailed the specific conditions for activating the Heart of the Dragon. It wasn't merely an artifact to be found. It required a ritual, a bonding of true spirits, and a precise alignment of stars and earthly energies, all culminating during a specific lunar phase, the upcoming full moon. This was what Master Wushu had warned them about. Their research also unearthed disturbing details about the curse itself. It was not just a physical affliction. It had a sentient, malevolent energy that sought to isolate and destroy. It fed on discord, fear, and secrecy. This explained Wenli's escalating attacks. The curse was using her, manipulating her pre-existing ambition and resentment, to sow chaos and weaken Hanchuan, thereby severing the nascent bond with Shi Yue and ensuring Luna's demise. "We need to go to the ancestral temple," Shi Yue declared one evening, pointing to a faded map on a scroll. This coordinates to a hidden chamber within the oldest part of the temple, a place the main family hasn't used in centuries. The poem. It speaks of where the dragon sleeps beneath the highest peak of the ancestors' gaze. It perfectly matches the temple's layout, where the main ancestral hall overlooks the highest mountain in the few ancestral lands. Han Chuan, initially skeptical, saw the logic in her deduction. The ancestral temple was a vast, ancient complex, mostly preserved as a historical site, far from the city. It was the last place his enemies would expect him to be, especially amidst the corporate chaos. The journey to the temple was fraught with tension. Han Chuan had deployed Qin Feng to handle the corporate crisis as best he could, buying them precious time. They traveled in a nondescript vehicle, eschewing their usual security detail, relying on Han Chuan's intimate knowledge of the hidden routes. The threat from Wen Li, and by extension the curse, was a constant, lurking presence. They knew they were being watched, their movements potentially tracked. As they approached the remote temple, nestled deep within ancient forests, a sense of gravitas settled upon them. The air grew cooler, infused with the scent of pine and damp earth. The temple itself was a sprawling complex of weathered stone, moss-covered roofs, and intricate carvings that depicted tales of dragons, celestial beings, and ancient battles. It was a place steeped in history, energy, and forgotten magic. Their search for the hidden chamber was a perilous endeavor. They navigated crumbling corridors, deciphered forgotten inscriptions, and triggered ancient mechanisms that tested their wits and courage. Han Chuan, with his intimate knowledge of the family's history, led the way, while Shi Yue's keen eye for symbolism and her understanding of ancient cultural contexts proved invaluable. In the deepest, most secluded part of the temple, beneath a towering peak known as Dragon's Head Mountain, they found it, a hidden door, concealed behind a rotating section of a mural depicting the Great Serpent of Harmony. The mural itself seemed to pulse with a faint, unseen energy. As they activated the mechanism, revealing a dark, winding passage, an unexpected challenge arose. A group of masked figures, clad in dark robes, suddenly emerged from the shadows of the temple's outer courtyard. They moved with silent precision, their weapons glinting in the faint moonlight. Fu Hanchuan, a voice distorted and cold, echoed through the night. The heart of the dragon belongs to those who truly understand its power. Your reign and your bloodline's existence ends tonight. It was a faction of the ancient cult, long thought extinct, or perhaps a splinter group that had secretly endured through the centuries, seeking to reclaim the power they believed was stolen from them, a power intertwined with the very curse that plagued the Fu family. They were the ones who truly understood the nature of the shadow sickness and its connection to the artifact, and they were here to stop them. The unlikely alliance, forged in desperation and blossoming into shared purpose, was now truly tested. Shi Yue and Han Chuan stood side by side, facing not just the machinations of a vengeful woman, but the ancient, malevolent forces that sought to claim the heart of the dragon and ensure the Fu family's complete annihilation. The quest for the cure had just become a desperate battle for survival. The ancient temple courtyard, once a sanctuary of quiet reverence, was now a battleground. The masked figures of the resurrected cult moved with an eerie, almost supernatural agility, their dark robes swirling in the moonlight. Their weapons, not modern firearms, but archaic blades and staves, gleamed menacingly. Shi Yue and Fu Hanchuan stood back to back, a desperate, unlikely pair facing an enemy steeped in forgotten malice. "The heart of the dragon belongs to the true inheritors," one of the cultists hissed, his voice echoing with an unnatural resonance. "The Fu line has defiled its power. You will not access it." Fu Hanchuan, despite the overwhelming odds, moved with a newfound ferocity. years of martial arts training, a hidden aspect of his upbringing as a powerful family scion, emerged. He moved like a shadow, deflecting blows, disarming cultists with brutal efficiency. But they were numerous, and their movements seemed guided by more than mere human skill. Shi Yue, though not a fighter, proved herself invaluable. Her quick thinking and knowledge of the temple's layout allowed her to identify vulnerable points, guiding Han Chuan with sharp, precise commands. She dodged, ducked, and even used her academic knowledge to disorient some cultists, pointing out ancient symbols that, when disrupted, seemed to momentarily break their focus. "The passage!" Shi Yue yelled, pointing to the newly revealed entrance behind the mural. "We have to get inside." Han Chuan, seeing an opening, fought his way towards the passage, a whirlwind of calculated strikes and evasive maneuvers. Just as they reached the hidden door, the leader of the cult, a tall, imposing figure with an intricately carved, bone-like mask, stepped forward. His presence seemed to hum with dark energy, and the air around him grew heavy. "You cannot escape your fate, Fu Han Chuan," the leader boomed, his voice devoid of humanity. "The curse is merely a conduit. The true power seeks balance. To break it, one must be taken." He lunged, not at Han Chuan, but directly at Shi Yue. Han Chuan reacted instantly, pushing Shi Yue through the hidden door, taking the full force of the leader's attack himself. A sharp, searing pain shot through him as the cult leader's blade, etched with arcane symbols, grazed his arm. The wound began to blacken, the curse's dark energy clearly flowing into him. "Go! Activate it!" Han Chuan roared, falling back as cultists swarmed him. "I'll buy you time!" Shi Yue, her heart pounding, stumbled into the dark passage. She knew she couldn't hesitate. Han Chuan was risking his life for her, for Luna. She plunged into the depths of the temple, the sounds of the desperate battle fading behind her, replaced by the ominous echo of her own footsteps. The passage led to a vast, circular chamber, its walls adorned with murals depicting the ancient history of the Fu family, their rise, their encounters with celestial beings, and the cataclysmic event that brought the shadow sickness upon them. In the center of the chamber, bathed in a single shaft of moonlight filtering through a hidden aperture high above, stood a magnificent altar. Upon the altar rested the heart of the dragon. It wasn't a gem, nor a metal artifact. It was a pulsating sphere of pure, luminous energy, held within a crystalline cage that seemed to shimmer with ancient power. It glowed with an ethereal blue light, occasionally flaring with golden sparks. The air around it vibrated with a potent, almost living force. Shi Yue approached cautiously, her hands trembling. She recalled the faint scroll's warning. The heart of the dragon demands a bonding of true spirits, and a significant offering to reawaken its full power. Master Wu Shu's words echoed in her mind. The curse feeds on despair, on isolation. To truly break the curse, the bond must be nurtured, strengthened by true understanding and shared purpose. As she reached the altar, the crystalline cage began to glow brighter, reacting to her presence. The celestial coordinates from the ancient map shimmered on the altar's surface, aligning perfectly with the moonlight. This was the moment. Suddenly, a voice, raspy and weak, echoed from behind her. "You truly are the chosen one, child." Shi Yue whirled around. It was Master Wuxu, his robes torn, his face pale, but his eyes still burning with an unwavering light. He had somehow managed to follow her, perhaps using a hidden passage, or sheer force of will. "Master Wuxu, how?" "No time," he interrupted, coughing. "The cult leader. He is not merely a man. He is the last descendant of the ancient cult, channeling the purest essence of the curse itself. He seeks to consume the heart of the dragon to permanently empower the curse and destroy your line. He has tainted Han Chuan with his touch. Time is short." He pointed to the altar. "The final requirement for activating the heart of the dragon. It is a bond forged in purpose. sealed by a shared sacrifice of what is most precious. The curse is tied to isolation, to the severance of bonds. To break it, a bond must be formed that defies severance, a complete union of spirit. Only then can the true power of the dragon heart awaken. Shi Yue looked at the glowing sphere, then back at the master. What kind of sacrifice? Master Wushu's gaze softened, filled with a profound sadness. The prophecy states, "For the curse to truly cease, one must give their light for the other's peace." A life for a life, not in death, but in absolute, profound connection. A complete merging of two souls, where one willingly becomes an anchor for the other's existence, forever bound to the power of the dragon heart, sacrificing their own independent spiritual path for the sake of the other. It means one of you must become the permanent guardian, the living conduit for the heart of the dragon's power, eternally connected to Luna, but unable to live a fully normal life, separated from its energy. A chilling realization dawned on Shi Yue. To save Luna, either she or Hanchuan would have to become inextricably bound to the heart of the dragon, sacrificing their own independent existence, their free will to some extent, to become a living, breathing anchor for Luna's life force. It was a profound, irreversible commitment. Just then, the hidden door burst open, and Fu Hanchuan, battered and bleeding, stumbled into the chamber. He looked at Shi Yue, his eyes desperate, then his gaze fell upon the pulsing heart of the dragon and the pale, grave face of Master Wushu. He understood. "I will do it," Han Chuan rasped, his voice raw. "I will become the anchor. I am already bound to Luna by blood. It is my duty. You, Shi Yue, have already given enough." He started to move towards the altar, a fierce resolve in his eyes. "No!" Shi Yue cried out, stepping in front of him. "You cannot. The curse is already in you from his touch. It will corrupt the heart of the dragon, or it will destroy you." She looked at Han Chuan, her heart aching. His sacrifice would be noble, but it would doom him, and Luna would still be in danger. Her eyes then fell on the little wooden bird toy, still clutched in her pocket. Luna's fragile existence, Han Chuan's desperate love, and her own bloodline, her own unexpected connection to this ancient power. She had been brought here by destiny, by prophecy, by a desperate man. But now she was choosing. "I will do it," Shi Yue said, her voice clear and unwavering, echoing through the chamber. Han Chuan tried to protest, but she held up a hand. "Master Wushu, is my bloodline resonance strong enough for this?" Master Wushu looked at her, a profound sense of awe and sorrow in his eyes. "Your spirit, child, is pure and untainted. Your connection, dormant for centuries, is precisely what is needed. You are the perfect vessel, the ultimate anchor." Shi Yue turned to Han Chuan, a faint, sad smile on her lips. "This was my destiny, wasn't it? To be the sacred bride, not just to marry you, but to become Luna's anchor. This is the only way." Behind them, the cult leader, his mask cracked and his form shimmering with dark energy, stumbled into the chamber, weakened but not defeated. "Foolish girl, you cannot defy destiny. You will be consumed." "No," Shi Yue whispered, turning towards the altar. "I will become destiny." She placed her hands on the crystalline cage of the heart of the dragon. The radiant blue energy intensified, swirling around her, drawing her into its luminous core. She felt a connection, profound and ancient, spreading through her veins, tingling with an ethereal power. Memories, not her own, flashed through her mind, echoes of ancient protectors, visions of the original curse, glimpses of the Fu lineage's long struggle. "Shi Yue!" Han Chuan cried out, reaching for her, his face a mask of horror. He understood the sacrifice. "Live, Han Chuan," she murmured, her voice now ethereal, resonating with the power of the heart of the dragon. "Live, and protect her. Protect Luna. Protect our family." The "our" hung in the air, a testament to the bond that had formed between them, transcending the contract. As the cult leader lunged forward, roaring with malevolent fury, the heart of the dragon flared with blinding light. Shi Yue closed her eyes, embracing the swirling energy. She felt her consciousness expand, merging with the ancient power, becoming one with the protective force. Her physical form remained, but her spiritual essence became intrinsically bound to the artifact, a living conduit, an eternal anchor for Luna's fading life. The surge of pure energy pulsed outwards, a wave of light that struck the cult leader with devastating force. He screamed, his form dissolving into black smoke as the ancient curse, now robbed of its power source and facing its ultimate antithesis, shattered, its malevolent essence utterly annihilated. The chamber fell silent. The heart of the dragon pulsed gently now, a soft, steady blue light emanating from Shi Yue's body, which stood at the altar, eyes still closed, her form shimmering slightly. Fu Hanxuan stumbled forward, catching her as she swayed. Her eyes fluttered open, clear and luminous, but with a faraway quality, as if she saw beyond the present. "Luna, she's stable," Shi Yue whispered, a faint smile on her lips. "The curse, it's broken." Her sacrifice was complete. The sacred bride had fulfilled her destiny, not by simply marrying, but by becoming the living heart of the dragon, forever linked to the well-being of Luna and the fate of the Fu family. The price was immeasurable, but the life saved was priceless. The ancient chamber, once a battleground of shadows and light, now bathed in the gentle, consistent glow emanating from Shi Yue. She stood, not as a fragile woman, but as a being imbued with ancient power, her presence radiating a calm, protective energy. Fu Hanxuan held her, his arms wrapped around her, his face buried in her hair, tears of profound grief and overwhelming gratitude streaming down his cheeks. The weight he had carried for so long, the suffocating fear for his daughter, had finally lifted. Master Wuxu, his strength returning, looked at Shi Yue with a mixture of reverence and sorrow. "The balance is restored," he murmured. "The curse is truly broken, but the price, it is indeed great." Shi Yue stirred in Hanxuan's embrace. Her eyes, luminous with the blue light of the dragon heart, held a newfound serenity. "Luna," she whispered, her voice still ethereal but clear, "is she truly safe?" Hanxuan pulled back, looking into her eyes. "Yes, Shi Yue, she is. You saved her. You saved us all." He felt the gentle pulse of energy from her, a steady, life-affirming rhythm that replaced the erratic flicker of Luna's vitality. The connection was undeniable, profound. The cult leader's form had disintegrated into nothing but ash, leaving no trace of his malice. The threat of the ancient cult was truly eradicated, their dark power utterly consumed by the awakened heart of the dragon. Over the next few days, the immediate aftermath was a blur of activity. Qin Feng, having navigated the corporate storm with impressive skill, was informed of the true nature of Shi Yue's sacrifice. His usual composure cracked, replaced by a deep respect for the woman who had given so much for the Fu family. The news of the shadow sickness and the true curse was kept strictly within a select few, a secret too profound and dangerous for the outside world. Luna, meanwhile, began a miraculous recovery. At the hidden facility, the medical monitors, once alarming with their erratic readings, now displayed stable, healthy vitals. Her pale complexion regained a healthy blush, her eyes, once dull and listless, sparkled with curiosity. The wooden bird toy, which she had clutched even in her most critical state, was now played with, its colors vibrant as she chirped happily. The connection with Shi Yue was instantaneous, almost magical. When Shi Yue was brought to her, Luna, though shy, immediately reached out to her, an unspoken bond forming between them, a warmth that radiated from Shi Yue's very core. The corporate storm instigated by Wen Li began to subside. With the curse's active manipulation gone, Wen Li's tactics seemed less potent, her attacks more desperate. Fu Hanchuan, though still recovering from his injuries and the immense emotional toll, returned to the battlefield with a renewed, almost terrifying resolve. He dismantled Wen Li's schemes with precision, exploiting her overconfidence and the sudden lack of luck that had favored her. Within weeks, the Wen Corporation was forced to retreat, humiliated, their attempts to usurp the Fu Empire utterly thwarted. Wen Li herself vanished from the public eye, her reputation in tatters. Life in the Fu mansion, slowly, profoundly, transformed. Shi Yue remained bound to the heart of the dragon, a living guardian. While she maintained her physical form, her energy was intrinsically linked to Luna's well-being and the stability of the dragon heart. She could no longer feel true exhaustion, nor could she fully succumb to illness. Her senses were heightened, her connection to the spiritual world more acute. But she also found herself occasionally drifting, her thoughts less tethered to the mundane, more to the ancient energy that now coursed through her. She was not a prisoner, but she was profoundly changed. Fu Hanchuan, for his part, underwent a radical transformation. The icy CEO was gone, replaced by a man humbled, grateful, and deeply in love. He had found not just a cure for his daughter, but a soulmate in the most unexpected and extraordinary way. He devoted himself to Shi Yue, understanding the profound sacrifice she had made. He built a new, smaller, secluded wing within the mansion, a tranquil sanctuary where Shi Yue could feel connected to nature and the energy of the heart of the dragon without being overwhelmed by the outside world. Their marriage, born of contract and desperation, blossomed into a profound, unconventional love. Han Chuan, now free from the burden of the curse, dedicated more time to his family, to Luna, and especially to Shi Yue. He learned to read the subtle shifts in her energy, to understand her moments of serene contemplation, and to cherish every interaction with her. Luna, thriving under Shi Yue's protective aura, grew into a lively, intelligent child, her laughter echoing through the once silent halls. She adored Shi Yue, seeing her as a benevolent, radiant guardian, a mystical mother figure. The bond between them was evident to anyone who saw it, a symbiotic connection that brought warmth and life to the entire household. Shi Yue found a new purpose, not just as Luna's anchor, but as the silent guiding force behind the Fu family's renewed prosperity. Her insights, often gained through her heightened spiritual awareness, proved invaluable to Han Chuan in navigating the complexities of the business world, though he never revealed their source. She became his confidant, his partner in every sense of the word, her wisdom complementing his strategic brilliance. The CEO's sacred bride had fulfilled her prophecy, not as a helpless pawn, but as a powerful force for healing and love. The Pact of Destiny had delivered more than just a cure. It had forged a family, bound by sacrifice, secrets, and an unbreakable love that transcended the ordinary. The Fu mansion, once a symbol of hidden sorrows, now radiated with a quiet, redeemed happiness, a testament to the extraordinary journey of a man who fought for his daughter and a woman who became the very heart of their salvation.